We're going to call to order the April 30th regular city council meeting for the city of Sharonville. If you could please stand and join us in a prayer and moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Kurt Irie. Join me in a moment for prayer and moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Buhite, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mrs. Sharpshire? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mrs. Knight? Here. Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
And Mr. Lovett is absent with notice.
Thank you. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the last meeting? Seeing none, those minutes will stand as approved, as written and distributed. Reports and communications, Mayor Hardman.
Excuse me. Thank you. So quickly, I will ask to be excused for our next meeting. It is Princeton's senior awards night, and my family has been invited with our graduate this year. I think Mr. Coulter is going to tell you the same thing here in a minute, so as I think he's going to be there as well. So I will not be here for our next meeting unless that runs quickly and you guys run long, because they overlap. But I will be available for questions before then or after, and to sign any legislation that you pass that night if anything happens to go through. I think you're going to talk about the LDI agreement and our visitors tonight, so I'll hold that off for a minute. Good to see them here this evening. And I will ask Ms. Ellardine has something she would like to address with you this evening, and I told her I'd give her a few minutes of my time.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm here tonight mostly to talk about upcoming events. With that being said, thank you all for your support. We had a great first Bark and Buy on the Loop on Saturday, so I'm excited to talk about our next events at the end of May. I'm not going to be at the next meeting as well for the same reason as Mayor Hardman identified, so I'm here to talk about them now. So our next event on the Loop is called Beats on Creek, and it's Thursday, May 23rd, 6 to 8 p.m. And this event is inspired by our 4th on the Loop celebration, when kind of everybody takes over the square and is dancing. So we are bringing in the infamous Erica, the line dancing instructor from Laurie's Roadhouse. We're bringing in the DJ on wheels. We're going to shut down Depot Square at Creek Road and open it up for a couple hours of dancing, and then we also have the Dora in our downtown as well. So we hope all will attend and have a great time. Our next event is actually the next morning. It's our second part in our Stories on the Square series. Again, our police officer, Joel Altman, author, will be reading Parky's Great Parks Adventure, and we will have Great Parks interpreters come out to do a program with the kids in attendance. And then, let's see here, and then the next and final event that I have to share is, if you remember from last year, Christmas on the Loop, we applied for a small, a Hamilton County small business event grant. We applied for the same grant again this year. We had to do so in a different capacity for the event, but I'm excited to say that we found out last week we were awarded the grant for $8,500, and it's going to go towards, we're going to bring an iceless ice skating rink downtown for Christmas on the Loop. I don't know how ice skating on an iceless rink works. I know you still get ice skates. We'll have attendance. We're going to have it for 8 hours through the day. Our event is 4 hours, but the idea is that with the extension on a big attraction, that people stay and patron our businesses. And that's what I've got coming up this year. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, don't forget the other big event on June 1st.
Yeah.
that we're really
Yes.
excited about as well, so.
Yes, and I can mention it now. I was
Let's
thinking.
mention it again, it's closed.
Yeah, it is. Well, there's a lot going on in the next month, trust me. So also we are bringing fireworks back to the city of Sharonville. We did hit pause last year, and we rebranded the event to be kicking off summer with a bang. So that is Saturday, June 1st, 6:30 at Princeton campus. We will have the activity booths, food trucks, inflatables. The fireworks show will kick off at 10 o'clock p.m. that night.
And that's all I have for the night.
Thank you, Mayor. Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. Another thing that's kicking off, the contractor for the US 42 path is planning on starting tomorrow. I don't think anything's changed regarding that. We haven't heard anything otherwise. Just for the public, the US 42 path goes from our downtown to Park 42, crosses the road, and then goes up to Kemper. So that'll be a path connecting Sharon Woods to kind of to the downtown area onto to Kemper Road. Highly anticipating that to start. So there are 7 pieces of legislation this evening. 4 of them are related. So if Scott could come up and talk about ordinance 2024-29, 30, 31, and 34E. I'm not sure which ones he's going to go in order here, but related to 2024-34E is a room block commitment aspect that Jim Doughton's here to talk about, because there were some questions regarding that at Law Committee. And then for all of this, Beatty's here representing the Delta Marriott, if there's any questions for her.
Good evening. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll attack those in reverse order. So we'll talk about Ordinance 34 first. This is the agreement to extend additional loan proceeds, a forgivable loan to LDI for continued renovation of the Delta Marriott. Just to kind of summarize the financial terms, back in late 2019, we extended a $500,000 forgivable loan for, it was forgiven based on TOT performance, based on some thresholds that we laid out at that time. Late 2019 wasn't the greatest time to do an agreement like that with what came next. So there was a couple of pieces of legislation that deferred that loan by 2 years. So that was forgivable over 6 years. It was deferred twice, so we are currently beginning year 3 of that forgivable loan 6-year period. What this agreement's doing from the financial terms is extending another $500,000. It's expanding that 6 to a 13 and kind of continues the thresholds established for year 3 and beyond. So, any questions on kind of the finance pieces of that piece of legislation? I'll go ahead and discuss Ordinance 31. This is accepting a grant from Hamilton County. They have awarded us a $1 million grant towards the capital and expansion expenses of the convention center. I know we've laid out a fair portion of funds in late 23 and early 24 to kind of wrap that up out of our 605 fund to, for the carpet, some other enhancements. What we're proposing here, what we're asking for, is to take that $1 million, split that into 2 halves. $500,000 will go into the 607 expansion fund for continued expense to wrap up that expansion project. $500,000 will go into the 608 debt fund, which is used to pay off the bonds related to the 2010 and the current expansion. And only appropriations are needed in the 607 fund. We had original budget appropriations in 608 to pay for the debt. This is to kind of make some contributions to that fund that are needed. Ordinance 2024-30E. This amends our TOT, our hotel tax allocation, excuse me, for 2024 only. This is all laid out in Chapter 184.14 of our codified ordinances. if you actually look at the last part of section 1, and there is a version of this that is proposed for late delivery here that will be accepted. So Casey kind of coached up an original version that we drafted. So this is amending that chapter 181.14 of the codified ordinance, but just for 1 year. And what I was alluding to is we laid this out that council may visit this on an annual basis. So we will tweak the hotel allocation for all dollars not related to the Hyatt Place. Only the first 500,000, not the million, of TOT will go to the convention center. Beyond the $500,000, it would go to the general fund. And the last piece is a appropriation ordinance 2024-29. We are amending 24 appropriations and establishing several funds. First of all, we're appropriating the $500,000 to provide the loan to LDI that's contemplated in Ordinance 34. We have begun to receive proceeds from the anchor property Butler County TIF. We already started last year receiving on the Hamilton County parcel related to that development. We just now received the Butler County portion. So we are appropriating funds to pass those on to the developer. And then we are also creating a handful of custodial agency funds. As we migrate, as we're working through a migration from our own internal payroll system that we've been on for several years to a migration to ADP, one thing we have to do is we're having to change the way that we account for withholdings of employees' checks for benefits. So whether it's pension, health insurance, vision insurance, several other kind of benefits, our current payroll system kind of accounts for those monies that we're holding for somebody else and passing on in the system. So we need to actually bring those onto our GL. So we will establish a dozen or so agency funds. We will not budget them because we're really just accounting for other people's money. These will be accounted for in funds 750 through 785, and we kind of asked for the authority to create new funds as needed, and so this will authorizes the creation and usage of those funds. Any questions about any of those items?
I don't have any questions, but just to piggyback and comments. I'm grateful to Hamilton County for seeing, I went to them, I let them know some of the issues with our overruns at the convention center, obviously, as well as the renovation, the continued renovation of the Delta Marriott, the additional rooms that certainly we need for what is already a booming addition that we've gotten to the convention center. We've seen some great traffic as a result of that. So we're excited about the fact that they are moving ahead with that, and glad that the county came to the table to be a participant in that in a roundabout way by allowing us to use some funds to clear up some money that we can use to help them to be a success and help draw folks to the convention center. Needy is here. I know that she came out tonight. Come on up in case and talk about your great hotel and the great work you're doing there for a couple of minutes. And I don't know if anybody has any questions for her or not, or their group, but wanted to make sure she was here, and I know she's appreciative to the city and what we were able to do too. So they've been waiting for this one for a while.
Exactly. We've been working on this for a really long time. As everyone knows, we did get hit with COVID when we first came, and we left 55 rooms that were not done on the back portion of the hotel. So with this, we've already started the gut job inside. We're now just allocating, getting ready for furniture and everything. And our debt, I think I told Jim that April 30th is when we're hoping to have all 55 more rooms up. In addition, everyone knows we also got the property next door, so we're just kind of moving forward, really investing a lot in Chester Road, and really appreciate everyone supporting it. Any questions?
Thanks, Needy. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, guys.
Jim, just because there was questions at law committee, do you want to address how room block commitments work, and whether there's further questions after that? We'll see, but.
Good evening. No, it's a great partnership with the Delta. The room block agreement, it acknowledges that the city's out looking for conventions. Our conventions, citywide conventions that book multiple hotels, usually book outside of a year. So the room block commitment helps us as we sell outside of a year to ensure we have hotel rooms to book those conventions. So there's a percentage in the agreement that Needy will hold outside of a year. Once we get to 12 months, it's a free sell, and it's pretty standard for a convention with multi-hotels. So we have a similar one with the Hyatt as well. Any questions?
Okay, moving on to ordinance 2024-32E. David's here to talk about the purchase of 2 parcels of downtown property.
Good evening, and thank you as always for having me here today. So in keeping with the city's comprehensive plan, Sharonville 2030, as you well know, the city continues to make enormous investments in this downtown loop and Depot Square to the benefit of the public, and as such, the ability to control key properties as they become available has increased in priority. Over the course of the fall, 2 properties located at 11188 and 11198 Main Street became available, which serves kind of a key anchor to the downtown in addition to the old bank building and the office parks across the way. As such, we entered into negotiations with the seller and the seller's representative at agreeable price point, contingent on council's approval, which we are here to ask for your approval tonight. Are there any questions regarding that?
Okay, moving to ordinance 2024-33E. This is to authorize a grant to SORTA. The grant that we will be seeking, if council approves this, concerns Cornell Road, a repaving of Cornell Road from Maple to Allenhurst, along with sidewalks on Cornell from Par 4 to Allenhurst. I think we all know that getting sidewalks on Cornell has been a long-standing priority and goal, and if we're successful in obtaining this grant, there'll be a great head start for that project. The overall construction price is $1.3 million, and that would be a 70-30 split, with the city being responsible for the 30%. Any questions on that? And then resolution 2024 R01E also concerns Cornell Road, and specifically the Cornell Culvert that we've been monitoring for 15 or 20 years. We applied for some OPWC money to address that issue, and were granted a loan. We're at the point where we're still discussing the project with 2 property owners up there, that because we need temporary and permanent easements, but we're at the point where we think eminent domain may be needed. So this resolution is the first step of that process. We'll still talk with them and hopefully come with a resolution, but if that's not successful in a meeting or 2, you'll see an ordinance to further proceed with the process. And that's it this evening.
Any questions for Mr. Lucas? All right, seeing none, my report, as with Mayor Hardman, I will not be at the May 14th council meeting either because of the 4th and final Coulter finally graduating from Princeton High School, so won't miss that senior awards night meeting. I'd like to thank Anna and your group for putting together the Bark and Buy. I had a great time down there, several hours, and I'd also like to thank those members of the various departments of the city who participated in that event by manning a booth or booths that we had down there. I know David was down there with his dog, and we had a few other people manning the city booth from the recreation department, talking about the dog park and Gorman Park as well, so thank them for that. That is it for my report. Clerk of Council, Ms. Buhite.
Thanks. I just want to make sure that everyone got that notice of the annual renewal of liquor permits. And those, any objections are due before June 1st. And that's it.
questions for Ms. Buhite? Seeing none. Auditor Mr. Cunningham.
Good evening, everybody. We are 25% away through the year, and we are only 16% spent in the general fund. Just to give you an idea, perhaps if you're interested in more detail, street construction and repair, 9.4%. Fire fund, 20.7%. Senior housing, 8.9%. And convention center, 13%. So I say we are underspent across the board to this point in the year. Additionally, as we talk about how that affects our cash, we are over where we need to be in our general fund, so that makes sense. One additional item that I wanted to mention was that I'm sure some of you have seen or read an email come across about from Next Move Group. Just talks about training for economic development for council members elected. I noticed that come through. It's come through my email several times, so I said something about it. We signed up for it, and I watched it. And I would say that it's probably something we all should look at, including administration. I was sort of the guinea on this, and so I volunteered to go through it first. It takes about an hour to go through it. I would say that some of it is a little self-serving in terms of Next Move Group trying to sell more training videos to you. So you have to kind of get beyond that point. Some of it will probably be review and sort of confirmation that we're doing these things already. And so it would be a good thing to know that, hey, these are some recommendations that we're already doing, so we're doing things right. But I think a piece of it is probably worthwhile for everybody to look at, in that you'll find maybe some tips or just some suggestions on what council's role really is in economic development. And some of you may get more, out of it than others, different variations. But I would recommend watching it. So I'm hoping at some point administration can send out that link and user password codes to everybody so they can view it at their own leisure. That's my report.
Any questions for Mr. Cunningham? Seeing none. Treasurer Mr. Irie.
Thank you. For my report tonight, I just want to touch on a few things, including year-to-date motel tax and income tax revenues. Of course, we're 25% through the year. These are the March 31, 2024 numbers. The motel tax is down 1.52%. Income tax revenue is up 4.56%. Just to give a little snapshot of some of the selected funds in the tax report here, comparison-wise, from the 24 year-to-date revenue versus the prior year-to-date revenue. The general fund was up 11.9%. Street construction, maintenance, and repair fund up 51.2%. Fire fund up 0.7%. Senior housing down 1.1%, and the convention center up 30.3%. So, as you can see, quarter through the year, we're up in all those, or closer, or up in all of those important funds. So, that's my report.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Irie? Seeing none. Law Director Mr. Lippert.
Thank you very much. I've got a couple things that I would like to bring up. Recently, our friends in Blue Ash had a rash of car break-ins. If you saw that in the news, I think they had dozens over the course of one evening. And particularly alarming is the number of firearms that were stolen from cars. So please secure your firearm in your house, not in your vehicle, and be on the lookout for people breaking into cars or looking suspicious. I think a lot of them were around apartment complexes. The other thing is I got notified of a new scam going around the area. There are a number of scams that are preying on people's sympathies. This one had to do with people holding up signs at busy intersections asking for money for donations for a deceased child's funeral. Exactly. So I don't know that that actually was a scam, but if you don't know the person, it very well could be, and law enforcement was alerted to that. So if anybody has any questions, I'm here, but that's That's my report.
Just, I want to piggyback on your comments because I don't want to disparage just our friends over in Blue Ash. We actually were also targeted with this rash of break-ins over at our convention center parking lot and Hyatt Place parking lot portion of it with overnight guests on Saturday evening. And they managed to, I think it was 20 cars that had their windows busted in, and they obtained 2 guns out of that one. So it certainly appears to be a group that might be well organized, well working together. Obviously, I know we've heard from Needy in recent weeks of issues over at their hotel. So it's something our police department is very aware of, as well as other police departments in the area. And what we seem to be successful at doing is pushing it from us to elsewhere, because Reading was also hit, from what I understand from news reports, Reading, Blue Ash, us, your advice is good, because it certainly sounds like they're looking for a specific thing, because there's not a whole lot of stuff being stolen from the cars, because there's not a lot to take. And unfortunately, people are leaving guns in their cars, and that seems to be what people are interested in grabbing. So we're working on trying to figure out what we can do. They're a sophisticated group of people. They're coming wearing masks, gloves, with stolen cars. So our flock cameras aren't a whole lot of help from that end of things, but the police department are active. All of these local jurisdictions are actively looking to solve this issue, because it's a headache for our guests that come to Sharonville. It's a headache for residents that live in our area who are the victims of these thugs. So we will continue to do our due diligence to do what we can to try to prevent these activities from taking place.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lippert?
I was going to piggyback off of what the mayor and Casey had to say. My daughter works for the hospitality group by the convention center, and the break-ins occurred after their security personnel left. So they are watching properties as far as the if there's security. So, but supposedly they did get 3 people on their surveillance camera, so, but they don't know who it was. But just a little FYI, if, you know, security personnel, that's what they're watching for also. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the special moment you've all been waiting for. Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Michael Blummer, with his annual report.
Exciting stuff here. Harry, I'm actually going to need.
Turn that off, I'm sorry.
I know we got a busy night still in the meeting, so I'll try to be brief. But this is my true passion, so it's something that I like to share with you guys and share with everybody. So, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, city staff. For those that don't know me, I am Michael Bloomer. I am the Recreation Director. And tonight, I'm proud to present to you my 2023 annual report. A fantastic year that we had. Let's see here. All right. Our department has worked incredibly hard in previous years to help bring things back to normal after COVID. In 2021, we adapted. In 2022, we added. And in 2023, we accelerated. The wave of momentum that you've heard me talk about many times before increased from a waist-high wave to a tidal wave. Numbers across the board increased from participation in programs and events to memberships, leading to one of our biggest years in the history of our department. To say that I'm proud of what our department has accomplished in this time would be an understatement. From renovations and projects to staffing challenges and increased demand, our department has been incredibly busy. None of this would be possible without the continued drive from our staff to offer the best possible experience when folks visit our facilities. The Recreation Department is extremely blessed to have such a loyal and resident-focused staff. I want to take the opportunity to say thank you to each and every one of them
for everything that they do to continue to provide a high level of customer service. In 2023, our success spread across every department. Memberships and renewals are up. Program registrations and participation are up. Fitness center track visits up. The aquatics flame is alive and well. Pre-COVID numbers are a thing of the past as we have exceeded them into multiple areas. Our recreation community is fully recovered, and the community center is once again a hub of activity for all ages and interests. Recreation continues to be the best option for people to connect, regardless of how they choose to participate. We recognize the importance of the work we do, and we take the responsibility of being part of people's everyday lives very seriously. No matter if you are here for physical activity or friendship, or to make a family memory, which I know a lot of you have, we are always here to help. Many of you are familiar with our department. We do have some new faces, so I would like to take a second and talk a little bit about it. We currently employ 7 full-time staff members, 14 part-time staff members, and normally about 14 to 18 seasonal staff with our Camp Sharonville and swim team. Our 50,000 square foot facility is open 7 days a week for a total of 86 hours. We have 4 large parks across the city, multiple outdoor sports fields, playgrounds, shelters, and other exciting amenities like a splash pad and dog park coming soon, sooner than you think. Talk a little bit about our budget. Our revenue goal in 2023 was $396,000. The department finished the year with $469,945 in revenue, 118.67% to our goal. 2023 now takes its place as becoming the best revenue year in the history of recreation, with 2017, pre-COVID, a distant second at $437,000. So I gave our staff a little trophy on our slide, if you noticed that. So we're pretty proud of that. Our revenue comes from 7 main categories, the largest being memberships, program fees, silver sneakers, and pool concessions. In 2023, those 4 categories alone exceeded their estimates by over $70,000. Looking at expenses, our year-end expenses finished more than $200,000 below our estimated expense budget. Although our expenses did grow from 2022 by $191,000. Biggest culprit of these rising costs are found to be in contracted services like SwimSafe. Also, facility maintenance costs have been increasing rapidly, specifically HVAC. Our year-end cost recovery percentage was 24.5%, one of the biggest we've seen in recent memory, up 0.6% from 2022. Talk a little bit about some of the project success that we had. Major and minor projects were completed in 2023. Highlights include the main entrance of the community center receiving a much-needed refresh. Those pavers we removed are original, 26 years old. The brand new concrete was designed to match the theme and color of the newly paved areas downtown in the Loop. In addition to the new concrete, brand new landscaping was added, and we think it looks really nice. We recently repaved the entire lot, and we kept the concrete blocked off for an extra week because we were afraid that cars were going to drive on it and leave black marks, which they still did, unfortunately, but it looks great. The 26-year-old hydraulic elevator. This project was a pretty interesting one. Was replaced in 2023 with a brand new all-electric model. The new elevator will cut down on continued maintenance and us continually trying to find parts that are no longer existent. The beauty of this elevator was that it cost over $128,000, but was entirely paid for with CDBG grant money. It was definitely a toss-up for which project was the most popular in 2023 between the elevator and my next project, but I have to say, with over 1,400 ice cream cones sold, the addition of the ice cream machine in the pool concession stand was easily one of our most popular and visible products that we added. And yes, I did pour that ice cream cone. That's the very first one that came out. And I did get complaints that it wasn't tall enough.
And that machine is up more than McDonald's machine, so.
Yes,
we're-
it is. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Yeah. Programs and participation, another banner year. Continues to be one of our most impactful things that we do as a department, programming. For many participants, our offerings are a way for them to continue a healthy lifestyle through fitness, exercise, or athletics. For others, it's a way to connect with friends, family, and neighbors. Last year, we saw surging participation numbers across the board, from pickleball to silver sneakers to camp to the preschool Make a Mess class. Our offerings for ages 0 to 99 were in high demand. Of all the programs offered across 2023, we saw a total of 27,242 participants. That's about 73 people per program. So we felt really, really good about that, or per day per program. By far the fastest growing program right now is pickleball. If you come to our facility, pickleball is absolutely taken over, and we're excited about it. We've embraced it. We've added pickleball courts outside, and we hope to continue to be a great spot for pickleball players to play now and into the future. But we did see 7,620 pickleball visits in 2023, which is crazy. Looking into community partnerships, one of the things that we try to do is there's definitely a lot more partnerships that we have than the ones we're going to focus on tonight. But we do want to feature our friends with the Rotary Club of Northeast Cincinnati. This is the second year that we received their community outreach grant. You remember in 2022 they installed some saddle spinners, playground equipment at Gower Park. This year they, as part of that program, we received funding for a new bench. And if you look at the bench, it looks right at those saddle spinners, so a lot of those parents appreciate that. Another big partnership that we have is with the Princeton Sharonville Kiwanians. This continues to be an outstanding partnership for our department. Their organization allows us to provide additional quality programming and financial scholarships to resident children in need to attend Camp Sharonville. The Kiwanis put on the Halloween party, the holiday craft show in November, and participate in our annual trunk or treat event. So we're very appreciative of them and their partnership and their eagerness to continue to work. Looking ahead, in 2019, I sat here as a new director, and I gave my first report to council that communicated my hopes to increase our participation and attendance with everything we did. We wanted our programs to sell out. We wanted our parks and pools to be crowded. We wanted our community center to be busting at the seams. This is all verbatim. You can go back and look at my 2019. We wanted people to meet new friends, meet neighbors, get healthy, have fun, and build lasting memories. Things that we still try to do today. At that time, we were working on many ways to achieve those goals. We wanted to make programs easier to attend. We wanted to add more programs, make them more accessible. We started finding ways to expand from within by adding amenities and reimagining our different spaces inside the community center. Above all, we wanted to grow. And in those 5 years, we believe that we've taken many steps towards making those goals a reality. Indoor renovations, outdoor park projects, new amenities, and a continued focus on safety and cleanliness are just a few of the boxes that we've checked. But looking ahead, we plan to do even more to help recreation take big steps forward. Already happening this year is a complete refurbishment of the slide towers at the pool. I know that was a hotbed issue we had last year. Towards the end of last year, we did have that tower completely refinished. We had major renovations done to the paint, to the structure itself, and every single step is in the process of being replaced. More pool projects, like the resurfacing of the locker room and bathroom floors, are already underway. Concrete deck work, pool painting, and lane line replacements are getting us ready to host the best swim team championship this city has ever seen, July 15th and 16th. It's going to be chaotic at the rec center. Even more excitement continues to build within our department as we finalize the studying of the lower level of our community center, as well as our beloved Gower Park and the Upper Grove for future improvement. We are working hard to dream up ideas to share with council and the community for what the future of those spaces could possibly be. We will continue to work hard to make our space what we know it can be. I'll leave you with this. Our department is unlike any other. We are unique in what we offer, unique in what we provide, and most importantly, unique in how we make people's lives better. I'm excited for what we've already accomplished as a team, and I look forward to the future. I do have some thank you cards I want to give out, as I've done in years past. Once again, I want to thank our staff. I've stood before council many times and explained that the work we do through recreation helps extend people's lives. But in the case of the cardiac arrest that was suffered at the community center last July, our staff were real lifesavers by responding to an incident that required CPR and the usage of an AED that led to a positive outcome for the patient. Thank you to the residents of Sharonville for your patience, especially those that live on the west side. The Gorman Park project that began in 2018 finally has a light at the end of the tunnel. As you can see in these photos taken from basically the same spot, the park's transformation has been nothing short of spectacular, and we can't wait to open the rest of it soon. So, with that being said, we cordially invite you all, as well as city staff, and especially the Sharonville residents, to a formal ribbon cutting of Gorman Park on Wednesday, May 22nd at 5 p.m. We plan to have a lot of fun. We plan to showcase the park, and we plan to show off what the last 5 years we've been busy doing. In closing, thank you for your continued support of the Recreation Department, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for Mr. Blomer? Dave?
Really not a question, just comments. Go in there usually early in the morning. Staff is it's early, right? They're energetic, very friendly. The paving the park, so compliments to that, right? Always feeling welcome. The upper lot paving looks great, right? And then a special shout out to Carol Crawford. So for those you don't know, she's heavily involved with Joe Nuxall Miracle League, right? They just had the parade there. And if you get a chance, it's something well worth attending. It's very emotional. And a special shout out for her for the effort she gives towards that great program. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll relay that to our staff as well as Carol. Carol is a massive cog in our wheel, and she is a huge part of the success that our department has every single day. Yes.
Being the president of the Sharonville Senior Citizens, I can't tell you how much the rec center really gets these people out, these citizens out, and Bethany does a fantastic job, her and Jan. And on a note for Carol, our bingo caller had to get a procedure, so he missed last week. So Carol had to be the bingo caller. And just to let you know, she did an awesome job.
Thank you.
So just kudos out to her.
And for those that are maybe watching on TV, we're currently hiring so that folks like Carol don't have to call bingo anymore, and other folks don't have to set up tables and clean restrooms. So if you're interested, please visit jobs.sharonville.org and apply today.
I know you always give kudos to your staff, and you say you can't do it without them, but thank you for your leadership over the years, and thank you for your great ideas, and especially the follow-through that you always do. Somebody asks you a question, there's always a follow-through, and you always have an answer to give. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
So when you said that we're going to have the best swim team championships, I concur.
Yeah, we've started working really hard thanks to your staff with the Sharks, and we're really embracing it as a department to try and support those championships, because the success is really going to come from us working together. And I think that we're primed for a massive, massive success, as long as the weather's good. I think the weather hopefully will be fantastic. But
We had, out of the 5 years that I've been the president of the parent board, we had approximately 50 families, mostly new. So that was pretty good turnout for our parent meeting Sunday.
Yeah, Evendale, we're coming for you in the swim team championship this year, so. Yes.
One more comment about championships. For people that are new to the city and don't realize it, but on July 15th and 16th, there will be an additional probably 3,000 people in the city of Sharonville from 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock on Monday and 1:30 to 7 o'clock on Tuesday. So just be aware if you see a lot of cars.
Yeah, if you're coming to work out, make sure it's early like Mr. Cook, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, are there any residents desiring to be heard before council this evening? All right, you'll have one more opportunity later. So seeing none, council committees, community development, Mr. Tankersley.
Thank you, sir. Let's see here. Our next BZA meeting will be on May the 8th at 6:30 PM in council chambers. And then Planning Commission will be meeting on May the 8th at 7:30 PM in the council chambers. And also, if I may, for Mr. Lovett, his community service meeting will be on May the 8th at 4 PM in the administrative conference room. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Budget and Finance, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. No report, but our next Budget and Finance meeting will be May 28th at 6 PM in the Administrative Conference Room. Moving on to Project Oversight, no report, and we are still working on determining our next meeting date. Thank you.
Thank you. Honored citizens, Ms. Knight.
Yes, tonight I am honoring Project Heart Restart. This committee awarded Sharonville Police with 2 AED units to put in their patrol cars. The Rotary Club, along with other agencies, started the campaign following the event involving Damar Hamlin and raised at that time $250,000 for their Phase 1. So hopefully, I think their objective is to get a lot more out to all the communities. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Next meeting of the Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be on May 7th, 4 PM Administrative Conference Room. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a late delivery. Is there a motion for late delivery for ordinance 2024-30-E? So moved by Mrs. Knight. Do I have a second? Mr. Tankersley, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say yes. Yes. Those opposed, no. All right, so that has passed. Rules suspension and motions, first and only reading for immediate effectivity of ordinances 2024-29, 2024-30-E, 2024-31, 2024-32-E, 2024-33-E, 2024-34E, and 2024-R01-E. So is there a motion for rule suspension for those ordinances as read? Mr. Cook, thank you for the first. Mr. Tankersley for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say yes.
Yes.
And those opposed say no. All right, those rule suspensions have passed. Ms. Buhite confirming there's no unfinished business, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so Ms. Buhite, new business.
All right. First and only reading of ordinance 2024-29, amending the 2024 appropriations and establishing funds.
Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-29? So moved by Mr. Cook, second by Ms. Sharpshare. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshare?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-29 has been approved. First and only reading of ordinance 2024-30E, amending City Code Section 181.14B, allocation of transient occupancy tax between funds, to allocate transient occupancy tax between the Sharonville Convention Center Fund and the Sharonville General Fund.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-30-E? So moved by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mrs. Knight. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshare?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt? Ordinance 2024-30E has been approved. First and only reading of ordinance 2024-31, accepting a grant from Hamilton County and amending 2024 appropriations.
Thank you. Is there a motion for 2024-31? Ms. Sharpshire, thank you for the first. Mr. Tankersley, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-31 has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2024-32E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to execute any necessary documents for the purchase of real property located at 11188 to 11198 Main Street, part of parcels 608-0005-0001-00 and 608-0005-0002-00, amending 2024 appropriations for the 401 Capital Fund and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-32-E? Ms. Knight, thank you for the second, or first. Mr. Schmidt, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2024-32E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2024-33E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to prepare and submit a funding application to the Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority for transit infrastructure funds for the Cornell Road Improvements Project and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-33-E? Ms. Knight, thank you for the first. Ms. Sharpshire, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2024-33E has been approved. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2024-34E, authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into an economic development agreement with LDI Hospitality Corporation and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance 2024-34-E? Mr. Cook, thank you for the first. And Ms. Knight, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshare?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt? Emergency ordinance 2024-34E has been approved. First and only reading of resolution 2024-R01E, declaring the necessity and intent to appropriate permanent easements and temporary construction easements for a public purpose from several property owners for the Cornell Road improvements for stormwater flow and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Is there a motion for ordinance for resolution 2024-R-01-E? Mr. Schmidt, thank you for the first. Mr. Cox, thank you for the second. Any discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Cox?
Oh, yes. This is, I went to law council, and we discussed eminent domain. And is this, when we vote, because I'm a big believer in private property, and I think this is a founding principle in America. So I don't know if it's a principle vote. I would be voting no, but I would like to know, like, when I vote no, I'm just voting saying I do, no to eminent domain and hope we can come to a resolution with the private property owner. Or if I'm voting yes, then I'm basically saying, that's where the line, the resolution could.
Yeah, I mean, this is what this does. I mean, this ordinance basically says we have a project that we have to do to correct a road problem that we've been working on for a long time on Cornell Road up at the culvert. And unfortunately, that means that we need certain property to do that. And, we're not building a sidewalk, we're not building a playground, we're dealing with a road that if it can't get done, it's going to fall in. That's what we're in danger of. Unfortunately, that means we need a portion of right-of-way. And my understanding is, I think the one that we're having issues with, is it all temporary right-of-way that we're dealing with, or?
There's a permanent easement as well.
There is a little, and how much of that is that?
I wouldn't know off the top.
But it's an easement.
It's an
It's not, it's easement, so it's not actually, it's not taking, it's extending the right-of-way, I guess is what it is. But so there is a property that's involved, but we don't have a choice. But yeah, you're right, that's exactly what it's doing. So I understand your principle. I don't particularly like taking property either. It's not something that we ever enjoy doing. But unfortunately, when you've got a road that's collapsing and a culvert that needs to be repaired in order to prevent that from happening so that people can traverse down Cornell Road, that's why this is a necessity. We've tried to come to an agreement. Unfortunately, the request that's out there is not backed by the request that's being requested of the city is not consistent with what the value of the property that we're taking. There's an intrinsic, and it probably has a little bit to do with that idea that this is my property, but it's more about, there's trees there that block the road from my backyard that I want to keep, which actually those aren't part of our taking mostly. So those are things that we could take out regardless. But that's we try to treat all of our residents appropriately and how we would want to be treated if this was our property. And we have not been able to come to a resolution, and that's why this is before you. If this doesn't pass, we can't continue with the project. So this helps us to continue the project. There will continue to be negotiations. There will be continued efforts to try to reach an amicable resolution between the two, but ultimately, if it doesn't get there, it goes to a court, and the court says, this is a project that is subject to eminent domain, and therefore, the city can take it, and a court places a value on what that property is by way of both the permanent and temporary easement that we would acquire to do it. So that's what it does, but we can't do the project without it. So, and it's an important project.
Thank you.
Hey, Bob, if it helps, I agree with you, but this survey's been going on for a number of years, and, I look at it as a safety issue to where if there was a collapse of the road, then somebody could get hurt. So I agree. I see your outlook on that. I'm the same way, but under the circumstances, this has been going on for quite some time. And the ground is actually, I believe, shifting, if I can remember right. So it's going to get worse to where more harm can happen. And I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mrs. Sharpshire?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Like I said, I'm a believer in private property, so I will vote no.
Okay. Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-R01E still passes.
Thank you. Second opportunity for residents to be desiring to be heard before council this evening. Yes, sir. You know the routine.
Jim Schmidt, 12215 Pickwick Place. Talking about this easement, obviously, we were involved in property that had to have an easement, and it kind of, sort of took part of our property, but it was for flood mitigation. It was for the good of the community, of the city of Sharonville, so it went through.
Thanks, sir. Any other residents? Seeing none, are there any other matters to be heard before council this evening? Seeing none. All right, do I have a motion for adjournment? Mr. Tankersley, and thank you for the second, Ms. Sharpshire. We are adjourned. Thank you.